Fam, what's up? Good morning. I appreciate you guys being here. What's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for joining me today on this beautiful Tuesday. We got a lot to talk about. We want to talk about a couple items today as we turn the page to Kentucky week. Here are the topics on the show today. We got Alabama basketball and the fact that Nate Oates has this team rolling once again. I was kind of surprised to see that the fact that Alabama was ranked number 24 or whatever to start the season because even with the departures that this team had, I mean, Alabama is certainly a team that you don't want to deal with. And I think Nate Oates and everything that he comes with, he's just such a great basketball coach. And when you look to the victory last night against Morehead State, the team started out really hot. And Grant Nelson, who was a transfer from North Dakota State, he is the guy. Finished 7 of 12 on the night, finished with 24 points. And this team has scores. They scored 105 points in the opener. And it was a really complete performance. I think Nate Oates, clearly has done such a remarkable job at Alabama. And now with kind of the world that we're in with the transfer portal and whatnot, reloading each and every year has been great. He talked about the fact that Brandon Miller was back in attendance last night, came from Charlotte to watch the Alabama Crimson Tide roll. So if you watch the basketball game, want to get your assessment of this team, Mark Sears has 13 points. Aaron Estrada, who's a scoring machine, had 16 points. And Stevenson had 12 for this team. I think overall, when you look to this team, at one point, I think they were like 6 of 8 from beyond the three-point range, and they finish out 10 of 23 on the night. So Alabama basketball certainly off to a good start. I appreciate you guys joining me inside the comment box. What's up, Jonathan? Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. To become a member of this YouTube channel, hit the join button if you're on your computer. It's up by the subscribe button on the homepage. And if you're on your mobile, just go up. There's a hyperlink that says a bunch of different words, but that's basically how you become a fan funder. Really appreciate you guys joining me today. Grant Nelson, absolute baller. Jaden Roberts, this guy is a redshirt sophomore. He's a road grader. He's really helped Alabama's offensive line transition into where this Alabama offensive line is today. And he's at that right guard position, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's a road grader. So when you think of Alabama's offensive line and how they've improved, you have Jaden Roberts at the right guard position. You have Seth at center, and at the left guard position, you have Tyler Booker. What do Booker and Roberts have in common? They're each sophomores, which is really great, paired up with a sophomore quarterback in Jalen Miro. I know he's a redshirt sophomore, but still, you start to look at all those sophomore components, and we talked about that early in the week. And I saw that David, LSU basketball last night to Colorado. I think Colorado's ranked number 24 or whatever. When you look to this next game against Kentucky, you cannot let it be a trap game. And Coach Saban's going to have these guys dialed in. I think, the kind of the rat poison and everything that you're going to start to hear about Alabama being good and people starting to talk more about Alabama. I get it. I mean, you should, because everybody in the world now is back to, looking what the Alabama Crimson Tide are doing. But when you look to the Kentucky Wildcats, we'll get to my callers in just a second. Let's kind of zoom in on what the Kentucky Wildcats have done thus far. 6-3 on the season, 3-3 in SEC play. Currently not ranked. Love their coach, Mark Stoops. I think he's done a really good job there at Kentucky. 72-62 in his 11th year. Didn't know he's been there for that long. Last game they beat Mississippi State 24-3 on the season. They opened up with a victory over Ball State 44-14. Then they in week 2 I guess they beat East Kentucky 28-17. Akron 35-3, beat Vanderbilt 45-20. So it was at this point that they had that momentum that we started to see from Kentucky till they ran into Georgia on October 7th, and they lost by a score of 51-13. Then they lost 3 in a row, lost to Missouri, who's also a really good team, 38-21, and then lost to Tennessee. We know those 3 teams are really good. That was a gauntlet for Kentucky. Absolutely got back on track, I guess, against Mississippi State with a dub, and now take on Alabama and finish out with 2 road games, taking on South Carolina and Louisville. So that's kind of Kentucky at a glance. And I think when you go to a game like this on the road, you certainly have to, you can't let it be a trap game. It's at 11 a.m. You're coming off a really big victory. Coach Saban won the Dodd Award, which goes to the most outstanding coach who had the biggest victory. And I think when you look to, kind of ahead to the playoffs, and when you start to look at the rankings, which dropped tonight, you're going to start to see, notable wins and how those wins are going to come into play. And Alabama's win over LSU was notable. That was a really big late season win for Alabama at home. And I think a lot of proving the naysayers, remember Lank, let a naysayer know. Clearly, that's something that Alabama continues to do week by week. This team has won 7 in a row. And when you look to the playoff rankings, which we're going to talk about in just a second, that is going to come into play. How many big games have you won? What does your schedule of strength look like? And how can you finish out? And how are you playing today? The injury report so far for this team, Coach Saban hit on this yesterday, was you have Deontay Lawson and you have Jalen Key. He didn't really provide a status update on each of those guys, but he did say that Ja'Cory Brooks is in a arm sling. I know a lot of people have been talking about that. So there's not too many, injuries that are going to be, too marquee for the most part. This team has been relatively healthy. And I think the biggest piece of news that Coach Saban dropped yesterday was on Devontae Smith. And he said that Devontae Smith, who hasn't played at all this season, he was slated to start at safety going into the beginning of week 1 and then had a foot injury, which I guess was pretty significant because he hasn't played at all. And Coach Saban said he's about 80% now. And I know you're out there like, what? Devontae Smith? Yes, Alabama has another Devontae Smith. They even call him Smitty, of course. He's on the defensive side of the ball, safety, and he said that he's doing some dry land running, and he's about 80%. So that's kind of where things stand with Deontay Lawson. Hang tight. I'll get to my callers in just a second. Alabama now kind of looking at the playoff rankings, and the rankings will drop tonight. This will be the second installment of the rankings. Here how the rankings look today. So you have number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Michigan, number 4, Florida State. Now, these were the first edition of the college football rankings. These will be updated tonight by the committee, and we went over the committee members during yesterday's show. You have number 5, Washington, number 6, Oregon, number 7, Texas, and number 8, Alabama. Of course, Oklahoma is going to continue to drop as they dropped a game, and then you have number 10, Ole Miss. So when you look to those teams, what do they have in common? They have in common the fact, and we're looking at those top teams, the thing that they have in common is they all won this past weekend, right? You have Michigan, who was able to put away Purdue, and then you have Ohio State, who put away Rutgers. They put them away in the second half, but still we've seen a second half emergence of this Alabama team again and again. Florida State beat Pittsburgh. They're now 9-0, and Georgia beat Missouri. I'm curious to see what the committee does with Georgia and Ohio State if they leapfrog the Georgia Bulldogs over Ohio State. I think that coming out with Ohio State, number 1, they looked at those 2 quality wins that Ohio State has on their schedule, Penn State and Notre Dame, and that tells us that they're valuing key wins. Okay, well, Georgia just got their first key win, quality win of the season, but so did Alabama, right? Beating LSU. Alabama now 8-1 on the season. We've zoomed in on Washington's schedule. They have a good win over Oregon, who was a top 10 team. But when you look to Oregon's schedule, and Oregon beat Cal, they don't really have a lot to talk about. I guess their win going to Salt Lake and beating the Utah Utes handedly is kind of their staple win. But, overall, is that a better win than LSU? And look at this, and you start to compare the schedules of strength, right? The gauntlet that Alabama just went through. And how do you feel that Alabama's schedule stacks up against, another schedule like Oregon or Washington, Florida State? Alabama's schedule has been 100% a gauntlet. Look at the teams that they have played, and look at they've played up to this point. Texas was a team that you saw play Kansas State, and that game went into overtime. Kansas State had an opportunity in overtime. It was 4th down to either kick a field goal or to go for it. They decided to go for it. I like the call, don't like the play call. And the end result is they took the L, losing to Texas. Texas has remaining games against TCU on the road. And then they go to Iowa State and then Texas Tech. Look, I still think Texas could lose any of those games, 100%. And then right now in the Big 12, the number 2 team is Oklahoma State, who just beat Oklahoma and looked like a really good team. Oklahoma, we got to wipe them off the board because they are now done. So let me see a couple other points that I wanted to hit on before I start taking calls. Look, Bama versus any of these top teams right now, you do not want to play Alabama, 1,000,000%. Is there an offensive coordinator out there that wants to deal with Alabama's defense? Is there an offensive coordinator out there that wants to deal with Dallas Turner? Is there a quarterback, that wants to deal with Dallas Turner? Right? Do you want to deal with Chris Boswell? Do you want to deal with Jahad Campbell? Do you want to deal with Kool-Aid, Terran Arnold? Who do you want to pick? You want to deal with Kevin Steele? In the second half adjustments that Alabama has made, there was a tweet floating out that kind of showcased Alabama's second half dominance against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and LSU. I'll have to look that up. But the second half combined against those three teams is super impressive, and those are super impressive offenses. So I'm just saying there's not an offensive coordinator that's kind of looking forward to playing this Alabama defense. On the flip side, you want to deal with Jalen Milroe? Go ahead. You want to doubt his deep ball? Go ahead. He'll run all over you. You want to doubt his intermediate passing? Whatever. You continue to criticize and kind of poke at Jalen Milroe, and what does the kid continue to do? He continues to win. And there's that stat, Paul. Thank you so much. 87-3. The second half against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and LSU. Look at that stat in the second half. Kevin Steele, Coach Saban was asked about kind of the second half of this team and kind of the defense of this team. Look, there it is right there on the board, 87-3 in the second half. Those are incredible adjustments that Coach Saban and his defensive staff make. And getting back to Jalen Milroe, those people who continue to harp on the fact that he isn't this or he isn't that, he's a winner, plain and simple. And he's the best playmaker on the field. He's probably, honestly, the best playmaker in college football. And we learned that back against Middle Tennessee when the ball went over his head and he scooped it up and he ran for a touchdown. His incredible ability to run, he has an incredible acceleration. It's unbelievable. And everything is clicking. Yes, he was inaccurate a couple times against LSU. He's been inaccurate, here and there. But for the most part, you do not want to deal with him. Imagine Kentucky right now watching that game film against LSU. You're like, really, this dude? I mean, what, is he 230 pounds? Man, that was an incredible performance by him. Took it over. The story of this team has been amazing because there's been so much depth to kind of chew on from the beginning of the season when this team didn't have a quarterback and there was a cake off when the cake was going to be baked. The wide receivers couldn't catch passes. We didn't know too much about Kevin Steele. We kind of had an idea that the defense would be pretty good, that the offensive line was going to be the biggest offensive line in the history of the world, and they came out flat. It wasn't much to take against Middle Tennessee. They lose to Texas. And honestly, I've seen it too. Kind of the amount of disinterest in Alabama certainly impacted those next couple weeks. The South Florida game, my goodness, that was terrible to go through. And going into that game against Ole Miss, there was so much anxiety. So many people felt that Alabama wasn't going to be Ole Miss. And then Alabama was this and that and this and that. And finally, you're starting to see people start to believe again. It's hard. It's been a gauntlet of a season. There's been a lot more anxiety this year, but there's been so much growth, right? And as the team grows more, the anxiety is starting to go down. Alabama has to finish out. Kentucky can't let that be a trap game. Have to play 4 quarters of play. You got Chattanooga, have to take care of them. And then you got Auburn. It doesn't matter. We've talked about that numerous times. Going to be a challenge. And then, if it works out, Alabama in the SEC championship against Georgia. I mean, that's the game that will really solidify Alabama back as a top team. We know that. People want to know if Alabama can beat Georgia, and that is Alabama's ticket back into the playoffs, 1,000,000%. If Georgia's undefeated, even if Georgia loses a game, I think that this was a cool graphic, and I'll get to my callers in just a second. I wanted to show you guys this. This is from the Action Network. I don't know if you guys have been following the Action Network. They have some really cool stuff. So the Action Network has this kind of, and it goes down and it breaks down every single team's playoff scenario. Really awesome. And has Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss is the SEC champ, with Ole Miss hopes, kind of fleeting, as they have to hope for Alabama to lose to Kentucky and to Auburn. And they play Georgia this coming weekend, right? Then you have the Pac-12 champ, Washington, Oregon. Those two teams, if they continue to win out, they're going to play each other in the Pac-12 championship. And then you have the Big 12 East, right? Penn State still plays Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan still play. Those three teams play each other, right? Ohio State and Michigan, they're each undefeated. The Big Ten West, there's nobody there. Don't even question who's there. And then the ACC, you have Florida State and Louisville. We've looked at Florida State's schedule. Everything should line up for Florida State. I'd be shocked if Florida State loses one of these games. I mean, I think Texas could, down the stretch, but Florida State, I just don't see them losing. They're playing at a high level. They're getting some wide receivers back in action that were injured. Jordan Travis is on a tear. That team's pretty good. You look at the comparison of scores. They're going to live off that, being that the fact that what did they beat LSU by? Put in the comment box. Was it 45-27, something like that? To Alabama's 42-28, and really Alabama. A couple things. Alabama missed 2 field goals. You take 6 points off the board, and that third touchdown by LSU right before half. That should not have happened, right? So you kind of look at it could have been 48-21. That looks a lot different than what the score was. Whatever the case was, they played 4 quarters of football. All right, let's get the party started. I appreciate you guys kind of waiting with me through my opening monologue, and let's get to the calls and start the party right now. We got Mike in Austin leading off the show. Mike, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling in. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Kyle. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, man. Got the workout in, just about 4.5 miles, and tons of push-ups, tons of sit-ups. I'm feeling good, man. Gotta keep that body right as we continue to push towards the month of November.
That's right. It's the key, man. I'm getting older now, and I realize that staying physically in shape a little bit is the key to everything, man. It's the key to your health and blood pressure, diabetes, or whatever. You got to stay in shape a little bit. So, but for me, it's a challenge, Kyle, because I like to eat, man. I like to eat. Here in Texas, we got some dang good food, man. So it's just like you talked about in Birmingham yesterday. But, it's definitely crunch time in college football. And as far as the rankings that will be coming out this evening, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of movement just because, unfortunately, not enough teams in front of Alabama lost. Mm-hmm. They pretty much all won. So I think it's going to stay the same about where it is. But there's still a lot of games to be played, so there probably will be movement, and hopefully at least 4 of them teams in front of Alabama are going to lose. So, so Bama can move up into the top 4, but there's still some big games to be played. And like you mentioned, Florida State, I think they play at Florida, mm-hmm. and Florida's hit and miss, but still Florida State, they could lose that game. I mean, I know Florida State should be favored to win that game, but to me, that one's 50-50 just because it is kind of their Iron Bowl per se. And if Florida shows up and if they play their best game, I think it's in Gainesville, then, Florida can win that game. But I'm not a Florida fan, but trust me, I will be on that day.
Yeah, I think when you look to Florida State's schedule, we're on with Mike from Austin. Look, Florida State has been playing at a very high level, and you look kind of to the games remaining for them. They have Miami, who they're a 2-touchdown favorite against, and then you have a game against Northern Alabama, and then you take on Florida. Now, granted, that game is at the Swamp. There's still going to be a 2-touchdown favorite in that game, and then who they will play in the ACC championship will be Louisville, a team that I don't know how much firepower they really have when all said and done. So I think when you're looking at Florida State kind of, punching their ticket to the playoffs, everything is right in front of them. We've seen them kind of drop games in the past that you have expected them to win. I just don't see that this Mike Norvell team gets off track. I mean, I kind of, when I look to this top four right now, anything could happen between Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, whatever. But it seems like Florida State, even with the Pac-12 teams, I think Florida State, considering they're living off that win against, I guess, LSU. Because when you look to their schedule as well, what really stands out? Does an overtime win against Clemson stand out? Seriously, look at Florida State's schedule. Look at the Pac-12 schedule. I'm going to pick at the ACC schedules all day long. But, in terms of kind of punching their ticket, it looks like Florida State has the best route to really solidify their spot, taking on Miami, Northern Alabama, and Florida. What's your take on that, Mike?
Well, you're right. If they beat Miami, if they beat the Florida Gators in Gainesville, if they win their championship game, they'll have a solid argument to go to the playoffs. And I got to be honest, they probably should. But yeah, they'll probably go. But that's not an easy road to hoe. They could lose one of them games, Miami and Florida, and if their championship game, they could lose one. But if they win out, they're going to go to the playoffs, and possibly rightfully so, But also, Bama's got a big game coming up against Kentucky. And here's my take on that, Kyle. You're exactly right, man. This could be a trap game for Alabama. Bama can't go in there complacent. They can't go in there still in celebratory mode over their last game, which they won't because, they won't, I don't think. But as far as Kentucky's concerned, let's be honest. I know they're having a decent season. I know they're a decent team with a decent coach. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest. Kentucky is one of them teams that Bama should beat. They're one of them teams like Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, South Florida. We know who they are, that Bama's better than them. Bama should beat them. So I think Bama's going to win. And here's the stat of stats, in my opinion, Kyle. Okay. Bama's got 25 five-star players on the roster right now. They got 25 five-star players. Kentucky has never had a five-star player in the history of their program. Mm-hmm. That's the difference of talent between Alabama and Kentucky. So with that being said, I think Kentucky, now a solid team, trap game, absolutely. But to me, they're in that range of where Mississippi State is. Some of these teams that Alabama should beat, and they probably will beat. So I think Alabama's going to go into Lexington, and they're going to I think they're going to take care of business. But there is a small chance of an upset, a small chance. It would be a major upset. But I just don't see it happen. I think Bama's got their eye on the ball. I think they see where they're at and where they need to be. They see a clear path to the championship game. And I think and hope that Kentucky's just going to be a speed bump that Bama's going to blow past or go into the championship game. I hope so, but I do think Bama's going to beat them. By what margin, I don't know, but I do think Bama's going to beat Kentucky pretty good, just because of the difference in the level of talent from Bama to Kentucky. We pretty much better than them at every position. So it's I think Bama's going to take care of business this weekend.
Yeah, I think, look, if you really wanted to piss Coach Saban off, you would ask him about those 5 stars compared to Kentucky's 5 stars, because that would be something that would just blow up the entire podium. Because he knows that this is a game where you have to continue to play 4 quarters of football. I think Malachi Moore said it best yesterday during his player interview. He said, look, we already know that we're playing an elimination game every single week. And that was good to hear, because that gives you a snapshot of the mindset for this team. They know what's at stake every single time that they step on the field remaining. And that's a good thing. That's why sometimes when you look to that loss, if you're going to lose in college football, we say this all the time, lose early so you can continue to, look, their back's against the wall, regardless of who they're playing, even against a team like Chattanooga. Kentucky is a team that can present challenges 1,000,000%. They have nothing to lose. They want to try to save their season. They're going to give Alabama their best game. They want to play hard for their coach. So I think this is going to be a game that you can't oversee. Coach knows that. He's going to try to give the guys rat poison. And what would be perfect for Alabama tonight when they rank the teams is to keep them where they're at the number 8 spot or whatever, because that continues to be that rat poison. As you print that out and be like, look, Nobody believes you're not a top 4 team. I've been saying they're a top 4 team based off their talent, but coach needs to give them that rat poison and be like, look, these are the real rankings right here, and they still don't have you in. You need to play 4 quarters of football to solidify it. Mike, I got to move to my next caller, man, but I appreciate you calling in, and I'll catch up with you next time.
Absolutely, man. Bye.
All right, man. Take it easy. Mike Batten, leadoff. Good leadoff hitter for sure. 201 and a 334 coming up next, and we got a 256. My name's Kyle Henderson at Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys watching this morning on this beautiful Tuesday, November 7th. Later on today, we get to hear from Kendrick Law. We haven't heard from Kendrick Law this season, which will be great. I'll have that interview right here for you on Bama Football on YouTube. So I have to tell you guys, I was streaming the press conference yesterday, and they kind of have it back-to-back. When you have Coach Saban and then they had Jalen Milroe and Malachi Moore. But the order was Malachi Moore and then it was Jalen Milroe. So you guys know how fine-tuned I am on like the sound and making sure you guys have everything you need. Well, yesterday, everything's going right. And then when Jalen Milroe was speaking, there was somebody who didn't unmute their Zoom, and you had like the newscast basically spill over on Jalen Milroe. So I've uploaded that in a clean version. You can find that on our YouTube channel, along with Nate Oates after Moorhead State. I just uploaded that press conference as well if you want to go and listen to Coach Oates. The thing I like about Coach Oates and his press conference, they're going to get a million of them because basketball plays so many games, is the fact that he's still young in his career, so he can really say what he wants, right? He's young and he's got kind of that hunger. Remember when he called out Coach K from Duke? What was that, a couple years ago? Like we were like, oh, okay, yeah, like okay, chill. But you know what I'm saying? Like it has a good press conference and they have a really good squad. So I think if you guys, I'm sure you guys saw what they did last year. I mean, shoot, they were ranked number 1 on the season. So Alabama basketball still sitting in the weeds as well at 24, whatever. That's a good team. They're going to win a ton of games and make another run at the SEC title game for sure. I think they're ranked 5th in the SEC media poll, which is kind of ridiculous. Like that team's good. All right, we go back to the phone lines with the 201. Hey, good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle, it's Adam calling from Georgia. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Adam? I appreciate you calling in. Good morning to you. Hope you're off to a good start on this fine Tuesday morning. Appreciate the continued support. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I just had a couple of brief points. I was just wondering, what aspects of our team do you think are the most vulnerable and need to be improved to win a national title? And what team do you think gives us the most problems that are ranked above us? And besides that, I just wanted to say this has been the most exciting season of the year, and Saban deserves Coach of the Year. He's just simply amazing, and he deserves that credit.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The only time that I've been here, I think that Coach has won the Bear Bryant Award, which goes to like the top coach, I think was like one time, which is crazy because he's always kind of up there. And, we can add the stats in the comment box, but you look at the overall job that he's done, and people are going to point to the fact that he has 24 5-stars and all this. And no. Like we just talked about it. The story of the team was building this team during the season, adding the layers, adding the components, fixing the weak points. What did Coach Saban say after the Texas game? This is fixable. And everyone was like, man, you can't fix this. He fixed it. 1,000,000%. Yeah. He really did. In terms of the weak spots of this team, that's a really good question. I think the weak spots of this team might kind of come back to the team itself and the mindset. If they start kind of feeling themselves and start kind of believing in the hype, and that kind of poison seeps into the locker room, then that can be detrimental because this team, their worst enemy might be themselves. And if they start to kind of buy into that hype, then that might derail this team. Schematically, we saw a really good performance from Tommy Rees, who is the offensive coordinator. And I think if he continues to unleash Jalen Milroe, I think they'll be in a good position. Any type of, injuries to this team. But for the most part, this team has been really healthy. And the training staff has done a remarkable job getting the guys who are a little bit nicked up back on track within like a 2-week span, outside of Devontae Smith, who had a serious injury, and maybe Emmanuel Henderson. But I think kind of the mindset kind of seeping into this team. have to stay hungry, have to stay laser focused, have to have that objective that, look, Alabama hasn't won anything yet. They haven't even claimed the SEC West title yet, right? So they got to stay hungry. And if that slips up, then that could derail this team 1,000,000%. I don't think it will, but that could. And what was your other question? Oh, about
I was just
other teams that could give Alabama problems.
Yeah, other teams that. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about UGA, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000,000%. I think Carson Beck is a very good quarterback, and I think Georgia has the defense and the overall mentality to play Alabama close forever. Now that Kirby Smart has that team rolling, and the thing that Kirby Smart has instilled on this team is we're better than Alabama. We're a step above Alabama. During the SEC media days, it was crazy because it was Nashville. It's not usually there, but there wasn't this big parade for Alabama like there usually is when it's in Birmingham. No, this was like the Kirby Smart show. And people were asking him about questions about Nick Saban and this, and he was like, I don't even remember winning national titles there. And he really wanted to kind of set himself apart from anything Alabama related. And I think that kind of spills into his locker room is, look, you guys are at the top of the college football mountain, and you're better than Alabama. They've slipped up. Coach Saban has lost his fastball, and they have the defense. Look, I don't know if these Georgia teams are as good as they've been in the past, but they're just as good as anyone else in college football, 100%. I mean, that win against Missouri, had a chance to watch it, and Carson Beck, he's finding himself as well. You talk about the progression of quarterbacks among college football. We look to Jalen Milroe and all these great quarterbacks that we have. We have such a good pool of quarterbacks this year. Carson Beck is starting to trend, upwards as well towards his back end of the season. And with Brock Bowers out, and it's allowed these other wide receivers to shine and some of their other offensive components to come with it. Their defense has never been an issue. I think you look to the teams out on the West, or you look to teams who are just kind of an offensive team like a Florida State, right? The thing that I like about Alabama versus those teams is Alabama's defense is already battle tested in the sense that they've went against elite quarterbacks and elite wide receivers so many times. Let's count them off. Texas, right?
Yeah.
Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU. Like, there's not a lot of teams, there's not a lot of secondaries in the country that has faced those offensive minds and quarterbacks this season. So when I look to, I don't think, what other quarterbacks are there? Bring them, right? And I think Alabama has that mindset. So it has to be a complete team, special teams, imposing offensive line. I don't know. I mean, honestly, and that's why I asked Bama versus the top 8 head to head. I like Alabama versus all those teams. There's a lot of parity. There's not one complete standout team until Michigan plays Penn State and Ohio State, and we really get a chance to see how they do in those big time games. I like Alabama versus the top 8 right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. Great analysis and great show. Thanks for taking my call, and roll tide.
Yeah, roll tide to you, man. All right, take it easy, Adam. All right, Adam calling in with Adam kind of gets in and out. I like that, just make the points nice and concise, and then, get out. So Kentucky week is here. Alabama 8-1 on the season, 6-0 in SEC play. Next up, Kentucky. Alabama's favored by 10. Rat Poison. Games at 11 a.m. Rat Poison. ESPN. Rat Poison. Alabama basketball defeated Morehead State last night. Dropped 105 points. Man, that's a ton of points. Morehead State had 73. Alabama scored 55 in the first half and then 50 in the second half. Alabama had 42 points in the paint, 23 fast break points to Morehead State's 5 points, and then bench scoring as well was high. Alabama had 38 points off the bench. We go back to our next caller. It's a 334. Let's do it right now. Yeah, I appreciate you joining in. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle. This is Wes from Tallahassee, man. How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? I really appreciate you calling in this morning. Hope you're off to a good Tuesday. The weather is glorious. I'm just loving this November weather, kind of a little chill. The time change hasn't affected me as much as I thought. However, yesterday it got dark pretty early, which I know I'm like, okay, these next couple hours it's going to be dark. I might have to like move my dinner schedule around. But other than that, man, I appreciate you calling in from Tallahassee. Been there plenty of times, and I appreciate you joining in.
You know what's funny is it's actually Tallahassee. Everybody
Tallahassee.
Thinks it's always Tallahassee.
Okay.
Yeah, Tallahassee. Yeah,
where's Tallahassee? Okay, where's Tallahassee at? Give me a map.
So we're smack dab in the middle of Montgomery and Auburn.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
If you take 85,
Yeah.
if you're going to Auburn to Montgomery, you're going to run into Tallahassee.
All right, thank you. And you have to forgive me. So,
yeah, man.
I'm learning. And even though I've been here for quite some time, I continue to learn the great state of Alabama. Like my son, he plays at Northridge. They just went down to Alma Bryant outside of Mobile. And so I'm getting to know all these places. I played in the golf amateur tour this past summer, and the people in Montgomery are obsessed with golf, 1,000,000%, and made some good friends this summer down there and in and around in Auburn too. But anyways, man, welcome from Tallahassee, and what's on your mind, man? Thanks for the show. Thanks for the call.
No, man. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I'm outside by the pool drinking a cup of coffee. You mentioned with the time change, it's affected my daughter more than it has anybody. But when it comes to Bama, man, I went to the Tennessee game. I'm proud of Bama fans. We are really starting to step up as a fan base, because when you go to a Bama game, you know how it is, man. You sitting down and sometimes you're standing up, sometimes, but now everybody's into it.
Yeah.
It's loud. Tennessee was the loudest game I've been to. I've been to quite a few Bama games, but Tennessee was loud, and then LSU I've heard was even louder. But I'm just proud because this season is fun, man.
Yeah.
Like Texas just kind of lit that fire under us. So, but one of the questions that I had was, I asked Smook last night on their show, do you have the video of Bond pregame talking trash to the LSU fans or to the team?
Yeah. I was the one who uploaded that. I know it got like circulated out by like a bunch of different people. But I was the one who caught that. Yeah. So I do have it, and it was great because, I noticed that the last game when Tennessee ran out, Joe Milton was shooting arrows at the team, and the two, like the cheerleaders who run with the flag and Tennessee's cheerleaders who run with the flag, they almost collided. And so I was like, just kind of see. And then I saw Isaiah Bond in the center of LSU, and I was like, oh, this is good. And kind of, they were like, I mean, everyone saw the video. They were kind of like bumping around, and then one of the guys hits him, and Bond just kind of shoves him out. And people were like, this is like Tony Brown type stuff. 1,000,000% it was. And getting back to you, Adam even says, what was the atmosphere like at Bryant-Denny for the LSU game? They broke the record, which is like 113. So you're absolutely right. Like what happened was there was a slight kind of anxiety before that Ole Miss game. But now that people are starting to see that, look, this team has a chance to make a run, and a remarkable run. The emotion, if this team is to win whatever down the road, I mean, it's going to be, this was a season. This wasn't just kick up your shoes and just kind of cruise through. No, this is a season, and I like it. And it's kind of waking up those fans, and kind of like Dabo Sweeney said to his caller the other day. He was like, look, we've done all this in the past, and you have one slip up, and it's quick to see how fans can turn on you. Right. There was people, we can go back to the comment box, that were calling for Coach Prime to come and replace Saban. I promise you. Right. They were like, he's done this and that. He lost one game. Lost 2 last year by a total of 4 points. Slow down. And I get it, because Alabama fans are not used to being in fistfights. They're not used to playing survive and advance, okay? And that's fine, because Coach Saban has set that standard. But when there's a season like that, you got to believe in your coach, and you got to just ride with the wave, and you got to watch that transformation. Look, these guys are developing these guys at a high rate, week by week, the film study, all this stuff. And they're getting paid some big money to win big games. I mean, they're not going out there to just kind of loaf around. I mean, they never just threw in the keys. I love that about this team. Coach Saban has had it dialed in. This has been such a remarkable story to follow this entire season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We were sitting beside a Washington fan who his daughter went to school at Bama, and he was like, "Man, this is my first SEC game, and this is wild."
Yeah,
he's like, "Man, y'all just play defense up here or down here. We don't even play defense up here." And then if you look at USC and Washington when they're playing, man, golly, that's fun to watch and all, but defense wins championships, and I think we have the team to do it. I really do. But one of the last questions I had is, as I'm watching the games, is it me or is Jalen Key starting to be kind of a liability? I think on the replays that you watch, you tend to see the back of his jersey more than you see the front of his jersey because he's chasing someone. Is that like you think those are coverage busts, or is he just? What do you think?
That's a really good question. I think that Jalen Key overall has done a really good job. He might be the second best player at that position behind Devontae Smith. As I was saying earlier, it was supposed to be Devontae Smith, right? And then the second tier, because he beat out Jalen Key. And so really what you have is your number 2 safety in at that spot. And Dexter Wright saying in the comment box, he's agreeing with you that Key and Story are big liabilities for this Alabama team. So you might be right in that regards. With that being said, I mean, look at the competition that they've gone against. My goodness. And then the offensive minds now,
they put matchups on.
Right. I mean, and they've drawn up some plays where they beat them over the top. I mean, how many times has Bama been beat over the top this year? We could probably cut him out. I mean, a few times for sure. So you have so think about this from Alabama's safety regards. You have a true freshman who is outstanding. Everybody loves him. Probably the best, right? Probably the best freshman in the entire country. And then you have probably your second string safety back there. So yeah, maybe kind of getting back to Adam's points, he was like, what was kind of a weakness? Maybe that is kind of like a little crack in the armor, so to speak. But they've been managing, and what they did in this last game was they put Christian Story at safety. And with that, this is when Jalen Key went out. So Christian Story at safety, and then I think they put Terrion at star, and then they brought in Trey Amos at the corner position. So it was some positive news. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, one of the most positive updates from Coach Saban, I guess, is that Devontae Smith is 80%. So who knows if he ever gets healthy? I don't know. Is a 90%? Devontae Smith better than 100% Jalen Key? Probably not. Jalen Key's made some good plays, and he's had some big hits. Remember when he blew up that dude from Ole Miss? That was a replay watcher. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question on the Key. I'm going to dive into some Pro Football Focus numbers and see what those can add to it. But for right now, I think you're just dealing with maybe the second tier guy at that safety spot. What else you got, Wes?
Hey, man, I think that's it, man. You covered everything. It's my first time calling. You have a great show. I enjoy listening, and I'm going to get off and keep listening.
All right, man. So, I appreciate it, Wes. Thank you very much for calling, and have a good rest of your day. All right, that was Wes calling in. Get to learn a new city from Alabama almost every day on the show. I appreciate you guys joining in. Kyle Henderson at Bama Football on YouTube. Thanks very much to the super chat. Adam again talking about that atmosphere, and as we're talking about with Wes, I mean, the atmosphere has been electric. It's loud. I will actually check out my son sent me this. This is where my son sat for the game, and see if I can get that picture, because it kind of paints the picture. I mean, you've seen kind of the atmosphere, and Alabama's social media team just does such a great job kind of showing, how the games are. But let me show you this picture real quick. See if I can get it. This is from my son. This is where he sat out the game. I think I might have to edit it real quick. I'll get to my next car in just 1 second. And the atmosphere, I mean, a game at night, like when Brian Denny changed and added these lights, they went to a whole different stratosphere in the world of college football. They got the music, they got the lights, they got everything kind of added in. And if you're a recruit, and I know it was a big recruiting weekend for Alabama, like look at this. Like, imagine coming out and seeing that. Like, that's the atmosphere, right? Like, that's it right there. And it's loud. It's intimidating. I think the team has done a great. I think the fans have done a great job. Even catching like LSU, I think they had to call a timeout or two because it was so loud at that stadium. And I think they broke like the 113 when it was the interception, right? The tip pass from Dallas Turner to Terran Arnold. So yeah, I mean, the stadium has been electric. The fans are back in it. And it's been really amazing to kind of see the transformation, and the fans are just back, full-fledged in it. So with that said, we go back to our caller. This will be our last caller of the day. We got a 256. Hey, what's going on? Good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Daryl from Huntsville.
What's up, Daryl? I appreciate you calling in. Welcome to the show. Hope you're off to a great Tuesday.
Well, it's another great day, Kyle. It's always good to see you. You're the most hyped prognosticator out there. I love talking to you and I love watching your show.
Yeah,
because I can see you really love what you're doing, and it really shows. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks very much, and I appreciate that because I know, like, when I'm watching a show, I want to be entertained. I want it to be balanced. I want there to be good audio, and there's talent, and I get it. Like, this is my job. This is how I feed my son, my daughter, how I pay my mortgage. So I'm really grateful for that because I think even myself this year has been a year of a lot of transformation. I've been working on myself and working on the craft and trying to stay consistent. And so I really appreciate that compliment. Thank you very much.
Well, it shows, and I called a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about my main word on Alabama was decisive. And Milroe was decisive Saturday. He made his mind up after he dropped back, first read, second read. Okay, I see 5 yards, let's go. He's gone. Before he'd hesitate, and he would, and again, is he Peyton Manning throwing the ball? No, but he's effective in what he does because once he starts to run the ball, that makes the offensive line better. That makes the defense has to adjust, and somebody's going to be open, mid-range or deep. And I think before the year out, he will improve as a mid-range passer. Now, of course, I'm kind of worried about this game. This is as you said earlier, so thoroughly. This is a trap game because Kentucky's hyped, and they're going to be hyped as Alabama. And this is their season. As we play a lot of teams, this is their season. So we got to go in there with the attitude: take no prisoners. Let's get off to a good start, and let's seek and destroy early.
Daryl, and I think the thing, like a coaching point, and I'm sure Coach Say won't be on this, is sometimes it's not even the opponent that you're playing; it's how can you play, in terms of your responsibility, and can you put another 4 quarters of play together? Because look, Kentucky is going to present challenges, 100%. Their defense is good, whatever, but sometimes like the focal point is on your team and doing your tasks effectively, and if Alabama can play 8 quarters consecutively of football, then you start to see even more people on that committee member, whatever, kind of turn around. Because was that 4 quarters of play against LSU? 100%. But can you do it consistently, right? Can you do it in another game? Because for the most part, if you go back, it wasn't consistent. You had to score 27 points in the second half to beat Tennessee. You had to come from behind to beat Ole Miss. You didn't play 4 quarters against Arkansas. So everybody that is kind of pointing at Alabama, they have a right to, because this season before this LSU game, it was not consistent. And they had to find ways to win in the second half, which is fine because even Ohio State in this last week, they were down to Rutgers 9-7 at the halftime break. So putting together a consistent game again has to be part of the plan. It has to be the main plan because you can't let Kentucky get off to a 10-0 lead or something like that. Not this late in the season, 100%. Like, And so you have to get out. You have to, even if you go down with Superman Will Riker. I know he was off this last game. Just put points on the board, and and rely on that defense that has been so good all season.
Oh, I agree 100%. All talking points are accurate. And, the thing is, with good teams, there's always going to be a time where there's one game where you have to pull it together, suck it up, and say, you know what, we're the better team, let's win.
Mm-hmm.
There's always one game, and in that year you can go back through the history of Alabama. Any team that was trying to win a championship, it was always that one game.
Mm-hmm.
And good teams find a way to win.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a turnover, whether it's a field goal, whether it's a stop in a crucial situation, good teams find a way to win. And those good teams then can become great teams because now we believe in each other. We believe in what the coaches are saying. We believe in the game plan. And we believe that my brother is going to get it done, whether the phrase came from, do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Do your job. Don't worry about what Dallas Turner is doing. Cover your man.
Mm-hmm.
Do your job.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I'll be up at 6 o'clock Saturday morning waiting on the game because I'm excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been the transformation. The overall story of the team has just been fantastic to follow. So anything else you got, Daryl, when you kind of look to this team in the larger perspective?
I'd like to, you made a point a while ago to how people can turn on you,
mm-hmm.
even though you've had years and years of success. Like you said, somebody actually wanted to replace Coach Saban with Coach Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true because I remember, I go back. I started watching Alabama football in '61, and Bear Bryant won 2 back-to-back championships. Was cheated out of a third when they went undefeated, and
mm-hmm.
they gave the championship to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And the next 2 years, he had 2 bad years, and they wanted to fire him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was how. His time has passed him by. We need to fire him. We need to get him out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're spoiled. Alabama fans are spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand, just like you said, these guys are paid this big money to win games. And Coach Saban has proven himself. Yes, we would prefer to have won a championship. Yes, we lost some games that maybe we should have won. But at the end of the day, he's our rock, and I'm sticking with him.
Yep.
And thank you, Kyle, for your show. I appreciate you and love your show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you calling in from Huntsville, Daryl. Take it easy, buddy.
All right. Have a great one.
All right, you too. That was Daryl calling in from Huntsville. Yeah, look, I mean, what Coach Saban has done overall and really this season, I mean, I think, Feinbaum said it yesterday, but there was also a point where Feinbaum, said, at the beginning of the season that if he didn't make the playoffs or something like that, there was some way he phrased it that people got upset. I think I brought it up as well. The fact that Feinbaum said something about Saban, because it's just kind of like rides the waves up and down. I'm so, like, me being here in Tuscaloosa, I have a real good pulse of the team, and I knew that I could just kind of feel that momentum starting to spur with this team, and they really just got going and started to believe in themselves. And I think, the more identity that they've had has just continued, like, because they gained even more identity against LSU, right? So, man, it's just been it's been great to follow. Okay, we'll take one. This will be my last caller of the morning. I know I said my last one, so 404. I'll get to you next time. Thank you very much for trying to get in. You can get in on Wednesday. All this week, I'll be coming to you at 9 a.m. Central Time. I appreciate you guys supporting the show. Thank you very much if you became a YouTube member or the Super Chats, or if you're a new subscriber or you're just hitting the thumbs up. I appreciate you guys all for joining me this morning and yesterday and tomorrow. Okay, 251. Let's do it. Hey, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, this is Reese Young. I'm from Mobile, but I live in Laurel, Mississippi now.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. What'd you say your name was one more time?
Reese?
All right, Reese, what's up, man? I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for calling in, and welcome on in the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I've been following the show for a couple of years now. I like how you put everything out there. If Even if it's good or bad callers, you put it all out there. But yeah, man, I just wanted to call and talk about the difference from the switch on Jalen Milroe. And I've been a big supporter of Jalen Milroe really ever since from the start of the season. But after that Texas loss, if you kind of go listen to his comments after the loss when he got interviewed, you could tell in his mentality that there was something different about him. And from then on, I was going to stick. I was sticking with him because he kind of had that next play, next game mentality, and you could tell he was going to do whatever it takes to get to where he is now. But what I wanted to say was how impressive it is, and how unlikely it was to a lot of people's minds to, if he keeps trending the way he's going now, next year when he comes back, we're talking about Jalen Milroe as one of the best players in college football coming into next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, and, I thought, sorry to interrupt you, Reese, but I was right there and the thing that I love is, cause the assistant coaches don't have to come out after the games, right? So like we didn't get a chance to talk to Tommy or Kevin Steele after they lost to Texas. We don't. We only get to hear from Saban, but the players have to come out, which is kind of crazy to think about. So Jalen Milroe comes up to the podium, and people are just like grilling him about that. That performance sucked. That performance provided, and things that suck provide an amazing learning opportunity. And that's what he did. And he continued to grow. So you kind of look from what that did for him from a mindset wise, and you kind of look to where he's at now and what he's, continue to work on. And this is the one thing, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but I think he's believing this. He's like, I'm not a finished product. And I think that is one of his mantras, and that's an affirmation that he's come up with, is he's not a finished product. And look, we're not finished products as people, right? So we have an opportunity to work on ourselves. He's working on his craft. He understands who has been the quarterbacks in the past. I asked him about the pressure of being Alabama's quarterback. Look at Tua, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Bryce Young. Bryce Young was the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Can you imagine the pressure coming in as a guy who has limited starts to take over this team that doesn't have an identity, that has a new offensive coordinator? And look how he's handled it. I'll tell you what, Jalen Milroe is the best interview we've had since I've been here, period. Best personality, great guy, humble, funny, great smile, working on himself. I mean, every time Jalen Milroe gets up at the podium, it's a treat, 1,000,000%.
Right, and I agree with that. And like you said, he's very authentic, and he's not afraid to put his faith out there. And you can tell he's a natural leader. And when he's out there, you can tell that the team loves playing with him and loves that he's their quarterback. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it's big to have a player like that. And whenever something bad goes wrong, the whole team is supposed to look at the quarterback and with his mindset and the way he handles himself and moves on to the next play. I mean, that's who you want as your quarterback. And another thing, I just think sometimes we forget that what a fan is all about, and that's being the support system for these players. And I know sometimes at Alabama, like, you get spoiled, but Tua was really the first big-time recruit at the quarterback position that started for Saban. Mm-hmm. And, Barnett was supposed to be that guy, but we know what happened with that. Mm-hmm. But it just became an ongoing thing of you have these first-round quarterbacks, and we forgot that sometimes you got to let a quarterback sit and develop. And they've done that this year, and you see what's going on with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the quarterback development has been interesting following the departure of Steve Sarkisian. And I say that because Steve Sarkisian, underneath him, he had A.J. Milwee, who was at Texas right now, and you also had Alex Mortensen. If you followed some of my shows before, I've talked about some of those lesser known names because those guys were the quarterback whisperers, right? Those guys were on staff 2016, 2017, 2018, and you look to the quarterback development during that time to now. I think Bryce Young had a lot of natural abilities, and I think the fact that Bill O'Brien, working in the NFL, worked with Bryce Young, and I think that continued to help him, especially sitting behind Mac Jones as he did. But this year, I don't know who the quarterback developer is, and I don't know if Alabama still has those type of minds kind of behind the scenes. I think losing Alex Mortensen to UAB when he went with Trent Dilfer was a gigantic loss for Alabama that you don't even know about. But with that said, he's continued to improve. So somebody is clearly working with him, whether that's Tommy Rees, which clearly it is. And Coach Saban said even every Sunday morning he meets with the quarterbacks.
Right. And last thing I want to say that's great about this year and for Alabama is that I know people said it before, but you can look back at 2015 and see where you had that loss to Ole Miss, and you followed up with a bad performance against Arkansas. I don't know if y'all remember that, but a bad performance after that. And the same thing is you didn't know if you had a quarterback good enough to lead him to a championship. Now, I think we know Jalen Milroe is better than Coker now, but at the time, you had no idea. And I just think it's great that there are not many schools and teams you can look back on and see a resemblance and say, okay, well, it can be done. And I think that's cool that you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of rewinding back to those times before, these NFL type quarterbacks, it was running back you at that point, right? You look to the running backs behind those guys. It's crazy. We looked at that 2015 roster the other day. It was crazy the amount of talent on that squad.
Oh, no doubt.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you calling in. I know you're a first-time caller, man. So we do this every morning at 9 a.m. And then anytime, major news breaks or whatever. So feel free to save the number, call in. Reese, I appreciate you calling in, man. And we'll catch you next time.
All right. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Take it easy. All right. Let me get to this last point before I break out. 404, I'll get you next time. I promise you. Don't hold it against my heart. Okay, so Branson is asking with the super chat, and thank you very much, Branson. I really appreciate it. Hey, Kyle, do you still think that LSU has the best offense in the country? That's a great question. I know they went up against the best defense in the country, and they put up 28 points. So possibly. And the reason I say that is because that quarterback is a handful to deal with. They didn't even use Brian Thomas. And they were effective moving the football. This team was able to go head-to-head with Alabama and put points on the board. The Malik Neighbors, that guy's a problem. They targeted him, I said yesterday, 17 times. No matter who you put on him, whatever they had, they have a really good offense, and they have good things going on at LSU 100%. As Coach Saban said, still not using Aaron Anderson. And now I love that clip where Coach Saban's like, you'd be playing more if you were here. And I talked about kind of Aaron Anderson and wondering if that was Coach Saban's guy that he thought who left. And I know we kind of traded, guesses on who Coach Saban was referring to at that time. But I thought that was a key moment post-game. LSU's offense, they're ultra talented. That quarterback is great, really good ball placement. But, Alabama got to them. And I think the turning point of the game, the two turning points was clearly the hit from Dallas Turner on Daniels, which was clean. They reviewed it. Everybody's been talking about it. It was clearly clean. Coach Saban explained it. You can watch that on a YouTube short. But also the interception, and that was caused by the defense. It was a tipped pass from Dallas Turner, got his big paw up there, hit it up in the air, and Terran Arnold was able to come down with the interception, and that's when the crowd went absolutely crazy. I'm telling you, a turnover like that in these games completely transform the momentum and give the offense better field position to be able to put more points on the board. So those are kind of the turning points that I look at, and they both affected the quarterback, right? Quarterback throws the interception, quarterback gets taken out of the game. By that point, there's zero reason to think that LSU, even with Daniels, if he would have stayed in the game, that, they come back. It was already 42-28 at that point. Alabama had all the momentum, and clearly they were having issues stopping Alabama's offense, which is clearly improving week to week. So best offense in the country, maybe. I mean, that Malik Neighbors and Dane Daniels 1,000,000% are issues, and Alabama again goes against another elite offense. So I don't know, probably, I guess so. Hey fam, I appreciate you guys joining in. Thank you, Reese, for calling up on the back end. If I didn't get you guys in today, I'll get you guys tomorrow, Wednesday, 9 a.m. So here's the schedule for the rest of the day. I got media availability with Alabama this afternoon. Let me read you who is going to be at the podium. We got Kendrick Law, we got Jam Miller, and Justin Boigbe today, which should be great interviews. I will post those around 2 p.m. and then I'll probably cut a video or something like that from here. So there's tons of coverage coming your way right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Got an action-packed week as Alabama heads to Lexington this weekend to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. I appreciate all the support. If you guys can hit the thumbs up, I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Have a great day, everyone.